Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Choate, and I am joined today by Lyndsay Phillips, who is going to talk to us about getting more out of the podcast interviews that we're doing. I am a huge fan of doing podcasts. Funny that here I am with my own podcast, but also guesting on other podcasts. I find that it is an incredible way to extend your reach, build trust, get new clients. But when I saw that Lyndsay has ways to make your appearances do even more, I said she has to come and talk to us. So welcome, Lyndsay. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks for having me. You have such good positive energy. And so I know this is going to be a great chat. I've been in the podcasting space for quite a while, and I've done launches and the whole nine yards. And I just found that guests, that there wasn't a lot out there to really help them out. The industry is really super focused on, growing your audience and monetizing and sponsorships and so forth. So I became even more passionate about helping guests get more ROI out of their episodes, creating conversations that convert, but leveraging it and repurposing it in a bigger way so that they're positioned as an authority and get more leads and clients.
Yes, I love that. I feel like we know we should be getting guest interviews, and then we do it, and then we're like, okay, I will post on Instagram. I was on this podcast, and then that's it. The end.
Exactly. Yep, that's pretty much it.
So what are some ways that you recommend to extend the life of that podcast interview?
You bet. And part of it, honestly, that mindset, even when you're in the podcast, I find a lot of guests will default to the host that, oh, I'm guesting on this podcast, so the host is doing all this heavy lifting. I'm going to be put in front of their audience. I get to, get exposure for my business. I'll get leads and so forth. And even when it goes live, they just think, oh, the host is, again, going to email their list and put it out, and I don't have to do anything.
Which we do, but also.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, which is fabulous. But you can even get more ROI when you create different assets and so forth. And I have a couple of stories to share with you, actually. And this is part of the reason why I started doing this for myself. And then I started doing it for my clients. And then I was like, okay, I need to do this in a bigger way out there. So when I guested on shows, every now and then I would have a host where they didn't know marketing, right? And I'm not saying they're terrible, but they didn't know how to market. So they didn't really know how to get that kind of visibility and get it out there. So I was like, oh, I'm kind of stuck and beholden to them. And sometimes it went live, they had a show page, they had an image that was fantastic. But what happened was they had some catchy title that was like related to my business name. So it was like, I don't know, how to do content marketing like smooth or smooth sailing content marketing, where that title, as catchy as it may be, it won't tell the audience or listeners what the show is about and how it will help them. And then the show notes, every now and then there would be like my bio, and there'd be like a couple of lines about what the show was about or what I shared, but there weren't any bullet points. There weren't any timestamps. There wasn't like a blog where I could skim. I'm a reader versus a listener, believe it or not. And so there wasn't really any hooks for me to like understand how it was going to benefit me. So in actuality, that content is, content is repelling listeners versus pulling them in to want to listen. And the content wasn't positioning me as an expert in what I wanted to be known as a guest for. So I was like, oh my God, now what? So I'm like, I'm just going to take control back into my hands, and I create my own image that is branded for me, that showcases that, I am a guest on this show. I put the cover art on there. I create my own show notes, and I make a blog post on my own website with like an embed their video. I obviously give, them credit. I do backlinks to their pages and what have you. And that way, when I'm promoting, I'm also pushing traffic to my own site. And I even changed the title so that I'm positioning myself how I want to be positioned, and I'm taking that control back. And when you think about it, Carolyn, when people are looking to get guests on their show, we go to their LinkedIn profile, we go to their website. And if you go to someone's website and they have blog posts with all of these shows that they've guested on, you're like, oh, they know what they're talking about. They're a guest expert already. I can see them in action. I can see what kind of content that they're putting out there. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So right? Like it's actually a way for you to make it easier to get booked and get opportunities. And then when prospects are going to your website, they see who you are, what you're about, what your solutions are, what your expertise is. So again, you're drawing them in and informing them what it is that you do and how you can serve them. So that to me is like the foundation of taking that control back, publishing it on your own website, and definitely ask the host for the video so that you can help promote.
Nice. Traffic. We love traffic. And
Yes.
I also want to say that is such a good point about the titles, because as a podcast listener, if I'm scrolling through, like I want to listen to something about marketing and I find the podcast where they interview people, excuse me, and I'm looking at all the different interviews they have, and they'll say things like, interview with such and such, interview with such and such. I'm like, I don't know who that is. I don't care.
I know.
So I'm always looking for those titles where it's going to tell me, oh, this is an interview on a topic that I really want to out.
100%. Or even if it's generic, like digital marketing strategies with, Joe Smith. Well, digital marketing is such a broad topic, where if it was, how to do Google ads for half the cost and get 10 times the results. Oh, that piques my interest a little bit more. So being uber specific.
Yes. Yes. And you're saying like, it's okay if the host didn't name it all that well. You can still put your own spin on it when you're promoting it. And I think
100%.
It'll help if you are submitting to be a guest on a podcast and you say, this is my talk title, and you customize it. And then the host is just like, oh, they made it easy. I'll just stick that in as the title, right?
100%. And that's why I, on your one sheet, on your press page, have your talk topics, make sure that they're hot and sexy and relevant to the audience, and, show the benefit. And you can create the interview questions as well, specific to that topic, to help the host guide the conversation so that the conversation is positioning you in the right way.
Ooh, I should go double check those questions that you sent me.
I have a way anyways of weaving the conversation, so we're all good.
It's an expert guest, my goodness. Now, you mentioned the magic word repurposing. I love repurposing because you put in the effort one time and then you get a gajillion different things that you can do with it. So what are some of the other ways besides a blog post that you would repurpose?
Absolutely. So I have a podcast leverage system, and there are 4 steps. So the first one is publishing. I have distributing, repurposing, and multiplying. So we kind of covered, a few of the tidbits with publishing, obviously publishing it on your website. Distributing, again, making sure that it goes out to all channels. You've got email, you've got LinkedIn articles, social media, reels, YouTube. You can create your own little videos. So multiplying and repurposing, I can kind of package them together when it comes to guests. And that is thinking about the content, not just as one large video or one large audio, but how can I pull pieces out of it that showcase my authority and serve the audience for a problem that they have? And then also, how can I use that to convert them to leads and clients? So I'll start at the beginning, and it's just thinking about the content in bite-sized pieces. And this is where, if you have a specific topic and specific interview questions, the conversation lends itself to have those bites. If the host is asking random questions about your journey and this and that and the other, it is harder to pull out those kind of, like, I call them snackable bites. But think of your body of work, think of what you talk about, and what quick tips or statistics or quotes that naturally come out of the episode. And with AI these days, it's easy to use that to help you find it. So even with, again, if I have a whole episode that I'm talking about the podcast leverage system, the 4 steps, naturally, I could create a carousel that is the 4 steps to repurpose and leverage your podcast guest episodes to blah, blah, blah. Each slide has one of the steps. So you can, again, that's just reframing your brain on how you look at the content. What maybe 4 reasons why you should repurpose the content. So if you just think, okay, what 3 ways, what 3 reasons, what 4 tips, you can usually find at least one thing, because carousels are super hot. I don't know about you, Carolyn, but I look at them and scroll through them all the time because it's like a little mini book. How much information can I get in the shortest amount of time?
I hear that you can now put more slides in that carousel. It was like up to 20 now, I think.
Yeah.
So I'll have to think about how I'm going to try that out.
I don't know. I think that's overkill. I like when there's 3, 4, or 5 because it's a quick snackable bite. If I do see a carousel that is 20, it has to be a topic that I'm like, I really need to know about it right now in order to actually go through it. Unless there's 5 words per slide and it's super quick scroll. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But when it comes to repurposing, I find a lot of entrepreneurs do get stuck on the tech, so they don't necessarily pull reels and shorts out of the video and the clips. And that's where there are a lot of great tools out there that do make it easier. You could have it use your VA to get them trained on it. Obviously, there are companies like myself that create those for you. But what happens with those little clips is they get you in front of an audience that isn't already following you. So you're naturally expanding your reach. And so obviously there's Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, and YouTube. It's the same thing, but they call it Shorts. And so generally speaking, they're under 60 seconds. But if you do some that are really short little snackable bites and they're under 30 seconds, even if they're under 15, Instagram will put them out into even more people. I don't know why, but that's their algorithm. So it's just a way to hook the attention. And if on the reel you have the cover art to say that you were featured on that podcast, the podcast host gets that exposure for the episode.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, right? Who doesn't? I mean, and plus, you're boosting your own authority, right? Oh, I was a guest on this episode. Oh, I was a guest on this episode. And that's where people will say, oh, I see you everywhere. You're on this show, you're on this summit, this, that, and the other. It just automatically boosts your credibility and authority just by doing that one little thing.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, reels and shorts they work and they capture attention, right? They're quick little things, especially when the captions are running across it. You can just consume the information that much faster. And the beauty about YouTube Shorts is when you optimize them and you start to get more views on those shorts, your videos also get more watch time because of the YouTube algorithm, and your subscribers go up. So I've seen that direct correlation with my clients, and like, it's so great to see.
Yes, that new audience is such a key part, because we often, as podcast guests, think about, I'm posting it, on my Instagram to my followers, I'm sending it to my email list, to the people that are already there, to sort of improve their opinion of me as an expert. But to be able to get new people into your world who come in immediately knowing that you are an expert because they saw you on someone's podcast, like, that is enormous. Very valuable.
Absolutely. To get new subscribers to your YouTube so that anything you push out after that, they get notifications. So they're more likely to consume your content. And then when YouTube sees that people are consuming your content, they're more likely to push your stuff out to more people. So it's kind of like that stacking domino effect.
Very nice. So you said your company helps with this. So this is something that you do, like a done for you, get the most out of your podcast. How does that work? What does it look like?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I work with guests, and I even work with clients that sometimes when you're guesting on podcasts, they're inconsistent on when they go live, right? So they're on summits, they have webinars, they do just YouTube videos in general. So we take any of that content and we will create blog posts. As I've mentioned, we will put those videos in YouTube and optimize them. And then again, pull out those snackable bites, whether it's carousels, quotes, the reels, the shorts, and email copy, LinkedIn articles. So we create those assets, write the copy that's custom to them, and also pushes to their goals and their lead magnets and their offers, and obviously their website, and pre-schedule it so that at least you've got consistent authority boosting content without having to do all the work. And then, I mean, you still need to put the legwork in, right? And like comment, engage, do your own like spontaneous posts and what have you. But have that, as an entrepreneur, we have so many hats. To have that consistent content that's going out there with stuff that you've already created, that you don't have to like bang your head against the wall trying to figure out what the heck you're going to do next week. It just makes life so much easier. And it's intentional and strategic. It's not content for the sake of content.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, it's a nice backbone to the rest of the strategy. Yeah, I love that. So what are some other tips that you have around being a podcast guest that I have not thought to ask you?
No problem. Is to not be afraid to use that content to push towards your own goals. So I was saying, for clients, we pull out those reels. Yes, some of those posts we will push to the blog post to get more listens on that episode, but some of them will be like the bridge between the audience's pain, micro piece of content, but then what's next for them? What else can you offer them? So it'll segue into offering one of their free resources, or it'll even mention, their upcoming program or course coming up, or even to explain what it is that you do. Like, again, if one of the reels was about how, taking micro content out of your guest episodes, hey, if you're stuck on doing this and you don't have the tech or you just don't have the time, I do this for all of my clients. If this sounds like something that would help you, DM me or put a flame in the comments and I'll connect. So don't be afraid to tell people what you do and invite them to have a conversation with you so that you can help them. Because if people don't know what you do, they're not going to magically raise their hands. They're not going to make those connections themselves.
Very true. Yes. Now, let's go back for a moment to the other side of it. Do you have any tips about booking podcast interviews?
I don't do the booking myself. I do work with a lot of booking agencies that, work with my clients, and I just, I'm friends with them and know them. They are fantastic to really help you be strategic in what audiences you need to get in front of. I know there's often people that, ooh, I need to get on this episode because they get so many downloads, or they're so popular, or this person is like, a god in the industry. That's fine. But the one thing you need to think about is, do their clients or do their audience, are they your perfect client? Because if they're not your perfect client, then you're not going to be able to convert them to leads or clients. And so you're just leaving money on the table. So that is one thought. The other is that there are many podcast matching services that some of them are even AI driven, which is super cool. Like, you put in like who your audience is and what you do and your topics, and they will find you shows. And obviously there's a directory where you can, check out different shows. But because you're communicating within that app, and sometimes I'll even just magically match you up and say, oh, these 3 people match you. Would you like to, raise your hand and say you'd like to be on their shows? So it saves so much time. And when people are communicating within that app, they answer because they're there for the same reason you are, versus cold emails and pitches and having a VA do it for you. I find people are inundated, and it can really come across as templated and pitchy. And so I find it obviously depends on your budget, but the agency and those podcasting matching services it just helps you get to where you want to go faster.
I would imagine also that when you have this system of repurposing and spreading the word, it makes you a more attractive guest for future hosts as well, because they see that they're going to get a lot out of having you on their podcast too. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Like, I found once I started guesting on more shows, and naturally I'm just a promoter, that's what I do, but I will get invites out of the blue. And so I'm like, yes, you know what I mean? And so, and even like when you put in your LinkedIn profile that you're a guest expert, again, like, you're putting yourself out there in the world that you're a guest expert, that you're guesting on all of these shows. So naturally other people that are hosts are like, ooh, what does she do? Like, oh, I like her content. Oh, she's already guesting on shows. They don't even have to think about it. They don't have to like, oh, I got to vet her. I need to like look at their one sheet. Like, granted, I'm sure they still do their due diligence, but it's a quicker decision. It's a quicker trust and credibility.
Yeah,
definitely.
Trust and credibility on multiple angles, multiple sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask the host that the show that you're on, saying, hey, I'm really looking to guest on more shows in the next couple of months. Do you know anyone that is a host of a show where this content would really serve their audience? And then they would, oh yeah, this person, that person. Oh, do you mind making an introduction? That is like an easy no-brainer. And you know that the show is already vetted as well. So that's super easy.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. Awesome. Now, do you have a free resource for us today?
leverageyourpodcast.com/guest. There we go. And it is a guide that will share 3 strategies to leverage and repurpose your guest interviews. So a little bit of what we talked about today, but in more detail, and there's a checklist in there. So again, it doesn't have to take long. It doesn't have to be super complicated. So I hope that checklist and guide really helps people.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing these wonderful tips with us. Is there anything final that you would like to say to the audience?
I would just say that hosts love when guests promote. It just makes you remembered. And so you're more likely to get referred to other podcasts, and they are probably more likely to have you back and also share that episode again. So it's a win-win for everybody. And so taking that little bit of extra time really makes a difference.
I love it. All right, well, we will leave things there. Thank you very much.